I think it's kind of in a lot of ways, you know, like, sometimes the job is thrust upon you, like if you created a show or you can, you know, you're finally in a place where you can take it there. And in my particular case, you know, it was a long career of kind of getting up the ladder, and through that experience, getting the experience that I need, not only the practical things of how production works, but also kind of looking back at, like, you know, I think some people are natural leaders and they have that sort of inherent, and that I think is important to be able, because in a lot of ways you're a cheerleader, you're a manager. The creative part is important, but as a showrunner, it's actually not as important as being a leader of, basically you're a CEO of a company that is spending millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on a product. You have often 100 or 200 employees that, you know, maybe not necessarily directly report to you, but you have to manage all of that. And so it can be a lot of work, but having the right mindset, it's not something that just can come to you instantly. You have to sort of kind of be born to it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and some of it's therapy, sometimes you're a therapist as well. Yeah, management therapist, there's all these things that you kind of, these skills that you don't expect, right? And I think another important thing is that you have to park your ego. I think that it's very important to know that you're working with a lot of different creative people and you need to support them. And so kind of fostering that ability to listen to lots of ideas, to not be a person who says no and shuts people down, to be a problem solver. Those are all things that I think are really useful in the skill set of a showrunner.
Yeah, I think, like, first of all, when you first presented it, I was just thinking like number one, no matter what your background is, no matter how you come about it, being a storyteller, like really knowing story and understanding story, because every single thing you do is to service and feed the story. Everything. If you're reviewing lighting, how is it helping the story? If you're reviewing the character design, how is it conveying this character for your story? So all of that. And certainly that comes with experience. I think not expecting to like graduate from school and then be like, I've got a show, woo! Like it's really great to be able to take that time to come up and learn the different pieces of what we do, so that when you get that opportunity, you get to bring your experience to the table. Because there is some like trusting of your gut that needs to happen. And then like my first EP job, I asked Dan Povenmire, like, what advice do you have for me? And he said to me, let your crew surprise you. So kind of like what Nicole said about setting aside your ego, like that thing of like, it's my show, it's my vision, I have to do it all. Like, you're not gonna go home. Like, let the people that you've hired, that you trusted to come and collaborate with, let them offer their ideas and try things and bring something of themselves to the table, and you just might be surprised that they have an idea that's so special and maybe even better than the one that you might have done. Or maybe it's not better, but it's just different, and that's cool too.
Yeah, I think over season 1 I learned not to beat myself up so much because I'm very introverted and very shy, which is very unusual in a showrunner, I think. Like, I think it actually takes a huge amount of extroversion because you're just talking to people all day, and that's very draining for me because I'm an introvert. And that was a real struggle for me for season 1 because I was like, I should be something else, something that I'm not. But by the end, I was like, man, it seems like people actually respond to just who I am, you know, just as a, you know, the unique person that I am as a showrunner. And, you know, it kind of made me embrace myself a little bit more and not fight against myself as much. So I would just say, you know, learn to embrace your unique skill set that you just bring naturally to the job. There are stuff you're gonna have to learn. Like, you're gonna have to learn how to talk on a panel. That sucks. But you know, other than that, you know, you can be your own lovable self and just bring it to the job. And I think people respond to that.
One thing you kind of can learn is being able to speak the language of the people that you talk to on a regular basis. When you talk to an art director, being able to talk about color, about texture, about shape, about all those sorts of things. When you're talking to your composer, when you're working on spotting scene, being able to talk in a language that they understand, or at least be able to figure out a way in between that you can translate. When you're in the editorial suite and you're with your editor, you need to be able to talk about how to cut, how to time, how to all those sort of things. When you're in your mix, you need to be able to listen, you need to be able to know, oh, this needs to come up, this needs to go down, this doesn't sound right. So there's all these different creative levels And you don't have to be an expert in that, but you at least have to be able to communicate, that doesn't work for me, and I can't explain why, but here's what I'm hearing, or I love this, more of that, please. And so being able to sort of exist within all these other creative realms is incredibly useful.
Let's open it up to our wonderful audience members who've been standing so patiently. Hi.
Hi, my name is Tom. My question is for all four of you. I wanted to ask you if you can share more about the experience of your first time being a showrunner. When you first did it, how was it like compared to your previous role, and what surprised you the most about being a showrunner once you started doing it?
Can you start?
Sure, I'll start. I was lucky because my first thing I was on, I developed and I was a story editor to start, and then I became a showrunner on season 4. And so I knew the show really well, and I think that was supremely helpful because the next show that I did, when it was like just from the start, was a lot harder, building that up and getting a crew. But I think, you know, I had the benefit of having been brought in early to look at animatics and to sit in on spotting sessions, and I feel like what we would like to do with the people that we work with, I think we're all the same, is that we try to bring in people that we work with to see those things too. So I always want my story editor to be present for that, you know, so they can be learning that. And I think that that's the most helpful thing for me, is when somebody is willing to lend a hand to you, so you do learn the vocabulary and you have that experience.
Should we all answer or let more people?
You know, it's a pretty small line. Anybody else has an answer to it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that, like, for me, I was brought on as a director on Descendants, Wicked World, and as I started working on it, Disney actually said we'd like to, I think as a director, maybe I can't remember, but they made me an executive producer on that series. And at first I was terrified, of course, as I always am with any kind of new opportunity. They must have made some kind of mistake. But it was again trusting my past experiences, like, oh, I have had, you know, the jobs I've worked on, I have been an animatic, and I have sat in a writer's room, and I do know these things, and the things I don't know, I can ask the people that I'm working with, and they can help me, and I can learn from them. I mean, I remember, like, I didn't really know lighting, and I felt really kind of insecure about that. I took, like, an online lighting class, because I was like, I want to understand this language better. So, you know, it's like you jump in, and there are the things that you know, and then you also find out what you might not know, and that's okay. You can go ahead and learn it or ask for help, which is what I did.
I was a story editor like Nicole throughout most of my career, and so I was still involved in most of the stages of production, but the first time I was ever literally handed the keys to the car and could go anywhere I want was with Niko and the Sort of Light, which I did the pilot for. But it was, and I was kind of spoiled by that because I wrote the pilot, we got it produced, and it was, what was on screen was absolutely everything that I wanted. And it just turned it to be like, and that's never ever happened since. But it was such an amazing experience to be able to realize that, wow, you know, I can finally have a chance to fully express my sort of vision creatively. And then you get to realize, oh, but you're still working for someone. So even though you sort of have a vision, it's still going to have to fit within the context of who's paying for its, you know, needs. So.
It's a very important part of the puzzle for us. Like, it's very important to underline that. Like, this is not our, like, we don't own these characters usually, I mean, sometimes, but the studio heads, the needs of the studio is a part of our job, understanding and hearing those and knowing when do you push for something and when is it like, okay, it doesn't really matter, this is important to them, let me make sure I can service that.
Okay, Reddit, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.